I'm Emad. I'm the tech lead of the RQmobile team in Winnipeg, and yeah, we basically look after the RQmobile iOS app. I think there's maybe 10,000 or so copies out there, out in the wild. Verizon's a big user of our product, so that's pretty cool, and it seems like our relationship with them is pretty good at the moment. So fingers crossed that continues. Yeah, so that's us. Some of the stuff we're working on at the moment. I know the clients, the dealers have been crying out for a better way to handle purchase orders and stuff like that, and they've been desperate for us to get that into RQmobile so that they can, take the iPad and go do the purchase order stuff receive the purchase order in a better location. So we're working on that, which is and that's our big project that we're trying to finish off in the next couple of sprints. But we're also involved in the new touchless payments initiative that that Ken and Co have been talking about as one of the big 5 things that we're trying to get done in the new world order. So yeah, the idea that you could initiate and do a wholesale and send off the payment link to customers sitting in their car or wherever they are who don't want to touch a payment terminal or come into the store and kind of handle all that stuff. So that's still in the early days, but I think at this point it's probably going to be one of our highest priorities to get that out. So yeah, that's sort of the key things we're working on at the moment.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that and just for joining me and talking with me today. Uh, I'm actually torn if it's even relevant to ask you anything about the history of RQ Mobile. Like it's like things change so rapidly, and you guys are in such uh, a changing environment, making new things. Uh, how would you describe like the genesis of RQmobile? Not that you were in every moment of it, but like why is RQmobile a thing at all?
Yeah, it's interesting because I know that I think if you look at the code base and the source control history, I think there's commits going back like 7, 8, 9 years, like something insane like that. So yeah, obviously I wasn't here then and I wasn't involved in any of that. So it's more what I've heard. And I don't think, well, actually we might have one person on the team who was a co-op at the time that RQmobile was like given focus and resources. And so I think he touched the code briefly and then he went on to other teams and he's been back on the team for working on RQmobile for the last maybe 5 years, I'm going to guess 4 or 5 years. So, but yeah, so there's been a lot of hands have touched it. It was, I think the very first feature they ever added was doing count sheets. So where I guess the store rep would walk around with the iPad and either use a barcode scanner or the camera on the iPad to literally do a count sheet, say in the morning, to scan in all the products on the shelves so they know what's in stock, doing like a stock take. I know TCC, when they joined and they basically went almost all RQmobile in their stores, they kind of overloaded the count sheet service because their whole procedure was to basically do a count sheet every morning in every store. So that's kind of how it started, and then from there it kind of evolved more into an actual point of sale app. So yeah, there's a lot of stores out there where the the customers or the sales reps want to walk around the store with the iPad in their hands and basically be able to do a sale from start to finish without necessarily having to run back to desktop.
I'm just gonna show how naive I am with my definition of RQmobile, which would be that it was a feature light version of RQ. Is that fair? Like it was like this is for people using RQ, but to give them a light version that could run on a mobile device.
Absolutely, yeah. RQ is like a huge monolith, as we know. There's a ton of stuff in there that RQmobile can't do, and a lot of it doesn't make sense for RQmobile to do. So it doesn't make sense for any of the reporting or the things, setting up products, all that sort of stuff is like, you're not going to do that while walking around the store. But into everything that's involved in like the sales process, to be able to create an invoice or a sales order, or, it's It's got the camera in there, so even if you don't have a barcode scanner in your hand, you can scan a barcode and add that product to your invoice. You can scan serial numbers and IMEIs and all sorts of things. So pretty much everything that's involved in like the sales process should potentially be on our radar as something that we should support. But yeah, it's not going to have everything that RQmobile does. So for purchase orders, for instance, setting up purchase orders makes no sense to do that on a iPad. You're better off going to the computer and looking up the product, sending it off to the vendor. But once you get that shipment in, I think what's happening at the moment in a lot of stores is the carriers or whoever, the owners of the business, require them to do it under a security camera. So they have to drag it out to next to the sales desk, basically, where there's customers, piles of boxes, and connect it to RQ, and like with RQ next to them, and scan in one iPhone, two iPhones, three iPhones, etc. And they've been crying out for a way to do it in a more, a way that makes more sense. So to be able to grab an iPad, go perhaps to the back room where there's a camera, so they can satisfy their requirements for security and other things, and just walk around the box and the products and scan it in. So that's one example where we don't there's no point us doing everything that RQ does for purchase orders, but for receiving it, it's a pretty good fit, I think.
So is I think I'm just trying to understand the relationship between RQ and RQmobile. Is everything RQmobile doing available in RQ, but it's just the form factor makes it easier, and certainly the use, the way it's used.
Mm-hmm.
But are you now doing things that RQ can't do? Like when you talk about touchless, seems like you're now building features that aren't in RQ.
We're building, and RQ's payments are building it as well. In fact, the RQ payments team are building a new API specifically to handle the touchless payment stuff in RQ and in RQmobile. So the nice thing is we won't have to do any of that sort of heavy lifting. We'll just connect to the same API that they will make RQ connect to. But yeah, that was in the meetings that we've had leading up to this point. That was one of the big questions. Where should we implement this? Then there's probably cases. I can't think of anything that we do in RQmobile that you can't do in RQ. But I can, just things like the receiving purchase orders, I think will be a much nicer experience for the sales rep in RQmobile. But at the end of the day, we're connecting to RQmobile services, which connects into RQ. So it's the same RQ database. It's, a lot of the stuff we could do, you should be able to just put the iPad down and get onto RQ desktop if there's an issue or something, and finish there. Or if there's gaps in RQmobile, you should be able to just do it in RQ.
What are the early adoption users? What do they look like in their store? Like, when I go to a salesperson in an early adoption place where they're using RQmobile, and I say, "Can I see RQ?" Do they just show me the iPad, or do they still consider RQ a desktop-based thing?
I don't know, actually.
Huh? Okay.
It might be like our product manager, Kirsty, could probably answer, give you more insight into. She's done store visits and things like that, so she could probably give you a better insight into it. But it is an interesting question. I mean, I'm not sure how they look at it, but
I think my curiosity, Emad, is that we've always. I think there was a version or a point in time where it was like RQmobile is a really great feature of RQ to help people and smooth things out. And I wonder if this is shifting. And I mean, and maybe even accelerating because of the pandemic and stuff, that it's like the user experience with RQ is like RQmobile, is it still a great feature within RQ, or is it becoming different? And again, maybe it's not a fair question for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's opportunities with the current environment that would suit an iPad and that mobility. Yeah, I mean, obviously from our point of view, we always think of it as different. It's a different app, but at the end of the day, we're connecting to the same database and trying to provide the same sort of functionality and whatnot. But yeah, I'm not sure how the salespeople feel about it. But yeah, look, honestly, if you can get Wi-Fi, then you could walk out to the car park and do a sale outside the car window, for instance. And with touchless payments, that would be even easier. So there should be opportunities there. Yeah, there's some other nice things that we've done recently. We did, like RQ Desktop did the in-store pickup notifications for Verizon. And they have like a task list to show, orders that need to be packed by the staff and for the customer to come in. And we were able to use, the iOS push notification ecosystem which is, so you can actually have the like a normal, Apple notification appears on the screen to say, hey, this order needs to be collected or whatever, picked, packed and collected. So that was one nice thing that we had. And I know that when we did a demo of it during the product's demo day, when I demoed it, one of the questions asked was, oh, can RQ Desktop do that as well? As far as I'm aware, they can't. They need to do polling, basically, where every X number of seconds, they got to go ask the server, is there any new orders? So I think there's a few opportunities like that, especially for touchless payments. That could be a nice feature to add in, to actually send an Apple push notification to let the salesperson know, hey, they've completed the payment. You can now bring the invoice back up again and complete it, and take the products out to the customer. So there's some opportunities there.
I've been asking you questions about the user experience, I think, with RQmobile. I'm also curious about the employee experience. How is working on a mobile app or Apple device team the same or different than a lot of our colleagues that are like just on
Yeah,
um, other teams?
it's definitely different. So when I started at IQ, I started on the dropship team. So I was working purely on .NET APIs, backend APIs, and it was all, pretty much the same as everybody else. A lot of other people in the organization doing that sort of stuff. So it's definitely interesting to move over to the Apple ecosystem. And now I have to have a Mac, and I need to have a ThinkPad, and and I'm going back and forth a lot between the two. So I'm like, I need to have a program that lets me share a mouse and keyboard between the two. And then I need to understand the Apple ecosystem, and the deployment pipelines are different. Although, I guess one of the nice things we did recently everybody, like most people, seem to be moving, I guess, towards Azure pipelines. Um, our release manager, Hector, he figured out how to basically move our whole app pipeline across to Azure pipelines, and now we're running it in parallel with our old system, but we could probably get rid of the old system anytime now. We've been releasing the app pretty much exclusively through Azure pipelines. So that's interesting. You get a little bit of shared support with all the other teams that are using pipeline, but they're probably not releasing iOS apps the way we are, and certainly not in a mission critical way the way we are. Like, it's got this isn't like a small app. It's a big app, and it's being used by a lot of customers, so it needs to be pretty solid. So
I think I should probably interview actor more about that. But like, did anybody intend that that's how it would be used when it was set up, or did
um,
he like he fit a round peg in a square hole?
oh no, it supports it, but it was interesting. That he was able to, he got that working pretty easily. Oh yeah, no, we didn't do, there's no like hackiness or anything. Like Azure Pipeline supports, I think it supports Android deployments and iOS deployments and .NET and all that sort of stuff. So it's got quite a broad range of support and stuff. But it was just interesting because we were using Jira and TeamCity and Buddy Build for our iOS app, but there was definitely a feeling that there was a bit of a wave and a push towards, let's get things into DevOps. Let's make DevOps our platform of choice for all this stuff. So So it was more a case of, well, everybody's moving there. We're probably going to have to move our .NET stuff over there. Yeah, Hector took that on to basically, all right, well, how do we replicate what we're doing in Buddy Build in DevOps? Yeah, and he got that working, and to the point that we're using that now. So
Cognizant of time, and I just think I just need to acknowledge that we're just scratching the surface of some really fascinating things there. I think, especially other technical colleagues are gonna like see a lot of parallels in that stuff. How challenging and like how significant some of these choices are, and like how it can be such a slog, and then all of a sudden maybe it's not important, or it is really important, and but uh, given how generous you've been, if you have comments, by all means. But given how generous you've been, I do want to make sure I just thank you. It's been really fantastic to get to hear from you, and I know everybody
no
appreciates it
problem.
too.
Yeah. But just getting back to your previous point, yeah, like IQ, I don't think I've ever worked anywhere that would pivot so quickly in response to the things, which I think it's good, but it's definitely frustrating too. To like, yeah, I think yeah, a few months ago, well, maybe more than a few. Like, I forget how long we've been in quarantine. To be honest, it feels like only a few months, but yeah, I think things were felt a lot more firm under my feet at the start of the year compared to now. But now it's like, okay, let's pivot. But I do appreciate that, like from an RQmobile point of view, that we're part of the future and what we're trying to do. I think I'd probably feel a lot more, not nervous, but like, wondering if none of the big five product priorities apply to us, and then it would be like, okay, well, what do we do? So yeah, but it's definitely, I don't know. It reminds you, like I'm from near Melbourne originally, and there's a saying in Melbourne about the weather that if you don't like the weather, just wait a minute, and it kind of feels that way. you know, if you don't, you're not sure about how things stand at the moment, just wait a month.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a an important uh, characteristic of IQers is to have that agility and responsiveness. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing this, and thanks for being as responsive and agile as you are.
Cool.